Hello, everyone. I hope you are having a calm and steady moment today. Take a slow breath and allow your mind to settle gently. Have you ever started learning English with strong energy but slowly felt that energy disappear? Like in the beginning, everything felt exciting, but after some time it became harder to continue? You begin with motivation. You feel ready? You feel determined. You make a plan. You start learning every day. And at first, it feels good. You feel progress. You feel movement. But then, something begins to change. The excitement becomes weaker. The energy becomes lower. And slowly, you begin to feel something different. You feel less interested. You feel less focused. And sometimes you do not want to study at all. And in that moment, a question appears in your mind. Why is this happening? Why can I not stay motivated? Many learners experience this. They start strong, but they cannot continue with the same energy. And this creates frustration because you know that you need consistency. You know that practice is important, but your motivation does not stay. Some people believe the answer is simple. They think motivation is something you either have or do not have. They believe some people are naturally motivated, and others are not. But this is not true. Motivation is not fixed. It changes. It rises. It falls. And this is normal. Another important idea is how motivation works. Motivation is often strong at the beginning because everything is new. Everything feels interesting. Everything feels possible. But as time passes, learning becomes more repetitive, more familiar, and sometimes more difficult. This reduces excitement. And when excitement decreases, motivation becomes weaker. Another key point is effort and reward. At the beginning, you feel quick results. You learn new words. You understand new sentences. This gives you a sense of reward. But later, progress becomes slower. The reward becomes less visible. And when the reward is not clear, motivation decreases. Another important idea is emotional state. Your emotions affect your motivation. If you feel tired, your motivation becomes low. If you feel stressed, your motivation becomes weak. So motivation is not only about learning, it is also about how you feel. Another key point is expectation. Many learners expect to feel motivated all the time, but this is not realistic. Motivation naturally changes. There will be days when you feel strong and days when you feel weak. This is part of the process. Another important idea is habit. When you depend only on motivation, your learning becomes unstable because motivation is not constant. But habits are different. Habits continue, even when motivation is low. And this is why habits are powerful. Another key point is meaning. If your learning has no clear meaning, motivation becomes weak. But if your learning feels meaningful, motivation becomes stronger. So understanding your reason is very important. Why do you want to learn English? What does it give you? What does it change in your life? When you connect to this meaning, your motivation becomes deeper. Not just excitement, but purpose. At this point, you may begin to see something clearly. Motivation is not something you need to chase. It is something you can support through your habits, through your environment, through your mindset. But there is still something important we need to understand. How can we keep going? even when motivation is low? How can we build a system that supports consistent learning? And this is where the story begins to go deeper. From losing motivation to building it sustainably. Now that we understand why motivation rises and falls, we can begin to explore how to maintain it in a more stable way. The goal is not to feel motivated all the time. The goal is to continue even when motivation is low. The first step is to build a simple routine. Motivation is temporary, but routine is stable. When you create a daily habit, you do not need to decide every time. You simply follow your routine. Even a small routine is enough. A few minutes of listening, a short moment of practice. These small actions create consistency. The second step is to reduce decision fatigue. Every time you decide whether to study or not, you use mental energy. And over time, this becomes tiring. So make your decisions simple. Choose one time. Choose one activity. Follow it daily. This reduces resistance. The third step is to connect learning with something enjoyable. If learning feels like a burden, your motivation will decrease. But if it feels interesting, you will return to it. So choose content you enjoy, stories, simple conversations, something that feels comfortable. This creates positive engagement. The fourth step is to create visible progress. Motivation grows when you see results. So create small markers. Track your listening time. Notice what you understand. Celebrate small improvements. These visible signs support your motivation. The fifth step is to set realistic expectations. Do not expect fast results. Do not expect constant progress. Learning is slow, and it is not always visible. When you accept this, your mind becomes more stable, and stability supports motivation. The sixth step is to manage your energy. Motivation depends on energy. If you are tired, your motivation decreases. So choose the right time. Study when your mind is fresh. This makes learning easier. The seventh step is to create a supportive environment. Your environment affects your behavior. If your space is distracting, your motivation decreases. But if it is calm, your mind becomes focused. So create a simple and clean space. This supports your learning habit. The eighth step is to accept low motivation days. There will be days when you do not feel motivated. This is normal. Do not fight it. Do not judge yourself. On these days, do something small. Even a few minutes is enough. This keeps your habit alive. Another important idea is consistency over intensity. Doing a little every day is more powerful than doing a lot once, because consistency builds momentum, and momentum supports motivation. Another key point is emotional awareness. Notice how you feel. If you feel tired, rest. If you feel stressed, slow down. Taking care of your emotions helps you maintain motivation. Another important idea is flexibility. Do not make your system too rigid. If something does not work, adjust it. Change your method slightly. This keeps your learning fresh. At this point, you may begin to notice something different. You do not depend only on motivation. You have a system. You have a routine, and this makes learning more stable. But there is still one important part left. How do we keep this motivation over a long time? How do we make learning sustainable? For months and years? And this is where the story moves forward. From short-term motivation to long-term consistency. So now we come to the final part of this story. How can you keep your motivation over a long period of time? Because starting is easy, but continuing is the real challenge. Many learners begin with strong energy. They feel excited. They feel ready. But after some time, that energy fades. And this is where many people stop, not because they cannot continue, but because they depend too much on motivation. So the real question is not, how do I feel motivated? The real question is, how do I continue without it? The first step is to build identity. Instead of thinking, I need motivation, begin to think, I am someone who learns English. This identity changes your behavior because you act based on who you believe you are. And when learning becomes part of your identity, you continue more naturally. The second step is to focus on process, not result. Results are slow, but process is immediate. You can control your actions. You can choose to listen. You can choose to practice. When you focus on the process, you remove pressure. And when pressure is low, continuation becomes easier. The third step is to accept emotional changes. You will not feel the same every day. Some days you feel motivated. Some days you feel tired. Some days you feel uninterested. This is normal. Do not let your emotions decide your actions. Let your system guide you. The fourth step is to create stability. Stability comes from repetition, doing the same small action every day. This builds a strong habit, and habits continue, even when motivation is low. The fifth step is to reconnect with purpose regularly. Your reason matters. Why are you learning English? What does it give you? What changes when you improve? When you remember this, your motivation becomes deeper. Not temporary excitement, but long-term purpose. The sixth step is to avoid burnout. If you push too hard, your energy will decrease. And when your energy decreases, motivation disappears. So balance effort with rest. Work, then recover. This keeps your energy stable. The seventh step is to celebrate consistency. Do not wait for big results. Celebrate small actions. One day of practice. One listening session. These small wins matter. They reinforce your habit. The eighth step is to trust long-term growth. Learning is not fast. It is not always visible. But it is happening. Each small action builds something. Each repetition strengthens your ability. Over time, these small steps create big change. Another important idea is resilience. There will be difficult moments. There will be days when you feel like stopping. But if you continue, even a little, you build resilience. And resilience supports long-term learning. Another key point is simplicity. Do not make your system too complicated. Keep it simple. Simple systems are easier to follow and easier to maintain. Another important idea is returning. There will be days when you stop. This is normal. Do not judge yourself. Just return. Each return makes your habit stronger. Over time, something begins to change. You no longer depend on motivation. You simply continue. Learning becomes part of your life, not something you force, but something you do naturally. And in that moment, you realize something important. Motivation was never the key. Consistency was. And this is the result of everything you have done. Not one big effort, but many small and steady steps. So if you remember one thing from this story, remember this. Do not wait for motivation. Build a system that supports you. Continue even when it feels small. And over time, your progress will become clear. Thank you for spending this time with the story. And as always, see you in the next story.